Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome back to the session. This session will continue to delve deeper into from policy to practice, building resilient and people-centered ASEAN through reconfiguration of supply chains and coordination of cross-sectoral ecosystem. Now, we are very privileged to have our four distinguished speakers for this session, and as our moderator, please allow me to invite Mr. Salvador Buban, Senior Policy Fellow at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. And as our panelists, we have Mr. Safwan Sulaiman, Assistant Director in the Connectivity Division at the ASEAN Secretariat, Dr. Mee-ryung, Research Fellow at the Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, Dr. Atit Tippichai, Assistant Professor in the Urban and Regional Planning Program at King Mongkut's Institute of Technology, Ladkrabang, Dr. Songheang, Director of Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization Regional Center for Technical Education Development. Thank you very much for your time today. And again, questions submitted from the floor will be displayed on screen in front of the panelists. Then, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would now like to invite Mr. Buban to take the floor.
Good afternoon, distinguished speakers, member of the panel, participants, and ladies and gentlemen. I know this is quite a challenging session, not only because it's after lunch, but anyway, allow me first to thank the ASEAN-Korea Center for the invitation to moderate this particular session. This session is quite timely as ASEAN faces the growing global challenges of uncertainties while striving to sustain growth, competitiveness, as well as the inclusion. So here, resilient supply chains and coordination has not been always been a challenge for ASEAN, especially here where we have connectivity, that there are silos, in how you operate with regard to infrastructure, regulation, etc. So, but need not worry, because we have here to help us unpack these issues of this particular session. We have a very distinguished and panel who will be helping us to look into and dig deep into a particular topics that are quite timely for this. So our session is structured to move logically from regulatory excellence as the foundation of connectivity to supply chain, which is actually the core economic system, as I would say, the practical aspect of it, and to freight transport and logistics as the point of implementation, and of course, finally, to the human dimension, where we will be talking about labor and mobility, which is actually the ultimate purpose of this particular integration. Given my panel members here, who have diverse background and experiences, I think whatever the discussion we have here will yield practical insights into how ASEAN can strengthen its resilience, competitiveness, and the development of a people-centered ASEAN in the future. So my panelists have been introduced already. I will not waste time to introduce them one by one. So I would like to invite our first speaker. So each one is given at least 15 minutes to share your thoughts. And then after everyone has spoken, then we could start with the panel discussion. So without further ado, I would like to invite my good friend, Safwan Sulaiman. He has been I've known him since I worked with the ASEAN Secretariat a long time ago. So Safwan, please.
Thank you, Buds. And as Buds said, I have known him for quite a while, and now I'm with the ASEAN Secretariat, and he's out of the ASEAN Secretariat with ERIA. So good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. As Bud said, I hope everyone has had a good lunch. And I think we have our work cut out for us, being the first panel after the lunch session. So please bear with me. I'll try to keep this moving at quite a fast pace. As an introduction, my name is Safwan. I'm from the ASEAN Secretariat, specifically the ASEAN Connectivity Division, where we oversee the implementation of the Master Plan and ASEAN Connectivity 2025. And from next year onwards, we will, of course, work on the implementation of the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan, which is the successor document. But before I dive into my presentation, I would just like to first thank the ASEAN-Korea Center for this opportunity to participate in the forum. It's a pleasure to be able to share a little bit of where we are with the ACSP, although I will try to tilt it more towards the regulatory excellence side of things. So first of all, let's take a high-level look at where we are now. I'll be going from left to right on this panel. First, I would like to say that ASEAN has done quite well for ourselves. As a group, ASEAN is now the 5th largest economy in the world, with GDP amounting to $3.9 trillion as of 2024. Combined, we also have the 3rd largest population in the world, and almost half of it are people under 30 years old, so it's quite a young demographic. And over half of the total population live in cities and urban centers across the region. In 2024, the economy grew by 4.8%, with a sustained growth on average of 4.3% since 2011. So last year, 2024's growth rate was actually quite above average in comparison. And throughout this time, ASEAN has invested in significant infrastructure development across transport, energy, and digital networks. Suffice to say, things change at a rapid pace in many ASEAN cities, but it's not enough. And that brings me to the middle panel. I think it's been mentioned quite a few times this morning that ASEAN needs $210 billion in annual infrastructure investment up to 2030 at least. My apologies for a slight typo there. Please ignore the 2023 to 2030. It should be 2016, I think. But nonetheless, the point still stands. I think that with the boom in AI and other technologies over the past couple of years, especially, this demand for infrastructure investment, especially in the energy sector, may have grown more significantly. It would be interesting to see updated figures bearing in mind these latest trends and needs. Now, the pandemic was an overall difficult time for all of us, both economically and in terms of our lives and well-being. However, having gone through those difficult times, it has taught us the importance of seamless digital connectivity. And this need has only continued to grow more over time. Additionally, we've also become more aware of the importance of having robust supply chains, especially with our closest neighbors and closest trading partners. Concepts such as supply chain resilience and green and circular supply chain rose to prominence in ASEAN's mindset since the pandemic, especially triggered by our experiences back then. This drive to build robust supply chains within ASEAN and with ASEAN's major trading partners have continued to persist to this day, and as such, it has grown more prominent in the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan as well. So where am I going with all this? On the rightmost panel, we can see, we can build the best roads or the best ports, but without the right rules and regulations to govern or manage their use, we will not be able to utilize them to their fullest potential. ASEAN consists of 11 member states, with Timor-Leste now becoming part of the ASEAN family, and each member state has their own unique regulatory environments. This poses quite a number of challenges, especially if we want to promote intra-ASEAN trade and investment, something that has been quite an ambition for ASEAN over the past few decades. So for example, if someone wants to bring goods from country A to country B, certain documents may be optional in country A, but required in country B. So that person will have to make sure that they are able to comply with the regulations of both countries. And in the case of ASEAN, this can be even more complex, because if we want to include another country, and you just say transiting through country B, then there's quite a lot of more complexities added in that kind of scenario. And one might say that why not just ship over, the sea using the seaports? Well, there could be a number of reasons for that. In the ASEAN context, that may not be available. Sometimes land transportation can be cheaper, especially if the quantity does not justify the cost of shipping over water. or the country may not have direct access to seaports to begin with, such as the case with Laos. Plenty of these gaps still exist among ASEAN member states, and sometimes even new ones can inadvertently pop up if circumstances require it. Additionally, the burden of regulatory complexities tend to fall heaviest on our micro, small, and medium enterprises, who often don't have the resources to understand and navigate through all the requirements, making it that much harder for them to participate in the global supply chain. So to summarize, yes, there is high demand for physical infrastructure yet within ASEAN, but at the same time, the soft infrastructure, the rules and regulations across member states also needs to be robust and compatible to unlock the full potential in the region. So let me go through quickly now on what we have accomplished under the strategic area of regulatory excellence under the MPAC 2025. This is in no particular order. We advanced regional cooperation on building and construction as a sector through the establishment of the working group and signing of the MRA on building and construction. And we also established the Digital Trade Standards and Conformance Working Group in recognition of the growing importance of the digital economy. Furthermore, the MPAC 2025 spurred the development of the methodology for ex-ante regulatory review for draft non-tariff measures, meaning it provides a way for member states to assess the potential impact of trade-related measures before they are implemented. Of course, all these do not exist in a vacuum. The work under MPAC 2025 complements what has been done and continues to be pursued under the AEC pillar, the ASEAN Economic Community pillar. And similarly, the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan also seeks to complement and add value to the AEC strategic plan. Without going through in so much detail, the new ACSP, I think I'll just go through quickly because it has been mentioned a few times this morning as well. The major difference, of course, is the addition of the smart and sustainable urban development as a new strategic area in the ACSP compared to the MPAC 2025. This was formerly part of the sustainable infrastructure strategic area, but we have seen growing demand over the years that ASEAN decided it was best to separate sustainable urbanization from sustainable infrastructure. Other strategic areas by and large remain the same, with slight tweaks to the names to reflect a shift or broadening of focus from the priorities pursued under MPAC 2025 to those under the ACSP. Of course, I have to mention as well that ASEAN decided to incorporate the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, or AOIP. The AOIP was developed after the MPAC 2025 was adopted, and it has 4 priority areas, of which connectivity is one of them. The AOIP in the ACSP signals ASEAN's imperative to continue to engage with partners in the area of connectivity and together engage in mutually beneficial cooperation to strengthen connectivity within ASEAN and with our partners. The ACSP comprises 6 strategic goals covering 6 areas that, as we all know, under which there are 14 objectives. And there is a total of 49 strategic measures in this ACSP, 47 of which are spread across the 6 strategic areas and 2 fall under the AOIP. In the case of regulatory excellence, there are 2 main objectives, which is to strengthen good regulatory practice for trade and investment and to help with disseminating knowledge and build capacity. In contrast, under the MPAC 2025, the objectives were more towards harmonizing standards in key sectors and to reduce trade distorting effects of NTMs. So why the change? Well, we need to look at the overall picture. The relevant sectoral bodies in ASEAN will always continue to work on standards harmonization and reducing the trade distorting effects of NTMs. So it was best to add value in other areas. There are many ways that the ACSP can support good regulatory practice, especially as it pertains to the connectivity-related aspects. And there's always demand for more training, more capacity building, especially when we're talking about the MSMEs. So there are 6 strategic measures under regulatory excellence and cooperation in the ACSP. These 6 measures focus on supporting greater digitalization, facilitating businesses in the region, as well as helping to promote green and circular economy in our supply chains and MSMEs in particular. We also aim to continue promoting MRAs, although in which areas yet are yet to be determined and will be driven by ASEAN's needs and demands. In the development of the ACSP, we have identified several bodies that we intend to work with to implement these strategic measures. Just to mention a few, the Senior Economic Officials Meeting, or SEAMEO, will play a key role, as will the ASEAN Coordinating Committee on MSMEs, and our customs colleagues, and electronic trade documents obviously will be worked on with the ASEAN Single Window Steering Committee. The ASEAN Focal Group on Circular Economy, a multi-sectoral grouping under the AEC pillar, will also be tapped into for matters related to the green supply chains. And for CIQ, we aim to, among others, engage with our colleagues from the political security pillar handling immigration matters, along with other relevant bodies. This is just to name a few. More may be engaged as we look to develop activities and projects to implement these strategic measures from next year onwards. And that brings me to the last slide. Implementing the ACSP will not be easy. That said, it is a 10-year strategic plan in support of a 20-year vision. For ASEAN, we are always keen to work with our partners in areas of mutual interest. I'm sure that as much as ASEAN can learn from the ROK's expertise and advanced technology, the ROK can also benefit from cooperation with ASEAN to better understand ASEAN's economic landscape and work together to strengthen ASEAN ROK supply chains. As mentioned earlier, capacity building, while a low-hanging fruit, is always in demand. Rules change, technology evolves, and new businesses try to enter the market every day. All these lead to a constant need to disseminate knowledge, to develop tools and resources to help our MSMEs enter and move up the global value chain, to lessen the knowledge gap between the small players and the big ones. ASEAN and ROK can always explore cooperation standards, to learn from each other's experiences, and engage in discussions or pilot projects in exploring and developing regional standards. And of course, last but not least, ASEAN and ROK have been comprehensive strategic partners since last year. Engaging in more cooperation to support connectivity will only serve to deepen that partnership further. Under the MPAC 2025, the ROK, as mentioned by Ambassador Sarah this morning, has been a good partner for us in the area of digital innovation under the Open Data Corporation and in Tibet. And we look forward to expanding that further into regulatory excellence and cooperation as well as other areas under the ACSP. Thank you.
Thank you, Safwan, and thank you also for staying within the limit. But one of the things that I really admired in the way the presentation was is giving us the landscape of where we are, where was impact, and then what has been the journey of ASEAN, and then where we are going. But also it's important that Safwan highlighted that what is the way forward, and apparently it's not just a one item way forward. It's like different elements that are quite important in bringing integration of connectivity into ASEAN. So it's not somehow but there are new elements that I think it's important that because of the changing landscape that we have in ASEAN. So we'll try to dig deep into those areas that you have mentioned, particularly on MRA standards, single window. These are all areas that there are initiatives being undertaken by ASEAN, and although they are implemented differently in different tracks in ASEAN, but they come together and blending it into the way ASEAN should work in ensuring that we have an integrated and deepened regional integration. So with that, let me now go to Dr. Mee-ryung, and who will share with us about supply chain in ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished guests. My name is Mee-ryung from KIEP. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to join this forum today. Now, I will be speaking on strengthening ASEAN integration to build a resilient and secure supply chain, focusing on how ASEAN can establish a stable and resilient supply chain architecture amid increasing global uncertainty. My presentation is organized into 3 parts. First, I will provide background on global supply chain realignment, and then I will show you some results from my analysis of intra-ASEAN trade and production networks using gravity model and GBC data. Finally, I will discuss policy implications for ASEAN integration and supply chain resilience. Since 2020, supply chain disruptions have come from multiple directions. COVID-19 restricted mobility, US-China rivalry fragmented technology ecosystems, and the Russia-Ukraine war affected commodities and shipping, and climate regulation is changing sourcing decisions. These shocks made supply chain vulnerabilities very visible. Against this backdrop, the key question is shifting from how efficiently and cheaply can we produce to with whom and how. Countries now treat supply chain security as a core element of economic security. And the concentration of production in a single location is widely recognized as a strategic risk. As a result, governments around the world are pursuing trade and investment diversification to reduce single country dependence. As part of these efforts, major economies are strengthening domestic industries and forming trusted supply chain partnerships. On the other hand, developing countries tend to rely mostly on foreign direct investment for supply chain participation, while developed countries are designing policies to actively reshape production network. Meanwhile, the second Trump administration has introduced a reciprocal tariff strategy aimed at reducing its trade deficit by imposing high and discriminatory tariffs on countries with large trade surplus against the US. Additionally, rerouting through third countries could result in punitive tariffs of up to 40%. This move has expanded what began as a bilateral US-China trade conflict into broader economy-wide pressure across multiple countries and industries. And China, in turn, has responded by tightening controls over critical minerals and establishing its own sanction list, pushing bilateral tension to a new peak. Regarding reciprocal tariffs, ASEAN member states have faced relatively high initial tariff rates. With only few exceptions, the initial rate imposed were over 30%. In that table, the numbers in parentheses represent the initial tariff rates, and the numbers above them show the revised rates after negotiations. High tariffs on ASEAN appear to reflect two key US objectives. First, reducing ASEAN's substantial trade surplus with the United States, and second, preventing China from using ASEAN as a route for indirect exports to the US market. In fact, a considerable number of ASEAN member states have a trade structure in which they import intermediate goods from China and export the final products to the United States, resulting in trade surplus with US and trade deficit with China. Given such trade patterns, it is necessary for ASEAN to sustain economic engagement with both the US and China. However, maintaining balanced trade relations with two countries will likely become difficult amid ongoing US-China strategic competition and increasing economic nationalism. Supply chain stability has therefore become an important policy challenge for ASEAN. Then why does ASEAN integration matters? It matters because the ASEAN integration can expand policy flexibility in economic security. Strengthening its intra-regional economic ties provides diversification in trade and supply chains and does not necessarily undermine strategic cooperation with external partners. Moreover, as supply chain realignment accelerates, firms seek to diversify production bases, reduce tariff exposure, and mitigate geopolitical risk. This means real progress in the ASEAN economic community is essential to position ASEAN as an attractive partner for external countries. ASEAN must diversify both intermediate input suppliers and final export destination to strengthen stability and resilience. To make this happen, ASEAN countries themselves must become alternatives for one another. And this is why ASEAN-centered supply chain governance is necessary. Meanwhile, the varying U.S. reciprocal tariffs across ASEAN member states could lead to supply chain realignment within the region. This could weaken ASEAN's policy momentum, so it is important for ASEAN to coordinate supply chain strategies rather than respond individually. Now, let's take a closer look at where ASEAN integration currently stands. I will present analytical findings on intra-ASEAN trade and production networks. As you can see the table, ATIGA achieved significant tariff liberalization. By 2018, over 98% of tariff lines reached zero. Despite this major achievement, intra-ASEAN trade has not increased significantly. Instead, the share of trade with non-ASEAN partners, especially China and US, has increased. In other words, external integration has deepened faster than internal integration within ASEAN. To analyze this trend, I use a gravity model, and this model used trade data from 1993 to 2021. And this is the result. These results show that ATIGA does not have a strong trade creation effect compared to ASEAN Plus One FTAs with countries such as China and Japan. In fact, what we see is that tariff preference among ASEAN have a limited influence on trade among ASEAN countries. This means that tariff elimination alone is not enough to deepen regional production networks. So traditional tariffs and FTA-based approaches seems insufficient for ASEAN integration. Now let's look at production linkage. Using GBC analysis based on 2022 data, we find that intra-ASEAN production linkage are relatively concentrated in Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. These linkages appear mainly in electronics, mining, food and beverage, and transport equipment. In particular, Singapore and Malaysia show strong linkages in electrical and optical equipment, and roughly 81% of Malaysian value added supplied to Singapore in this sector is re-exported to third country. But for electrical and optical equipment sector, production linkage with Korea, China, United States, and Japan are more pronounced than intra-ASEAN linkage. This is because inward FDI is primarily driven by extra-regional economies. And such investment tends to strengthen production linkage between external countries and ASEAN member states, rather than building internal ASEAN supply chain connections. Oh, okay. Now we are at the last part. Actually, there is optimism that US-China trade tension may encourage firms to relocate from China to ASEAN. However, without stronger intra-ASEAN production linkage, ASEAN remains vulnerable to policy shocks arising from neighboring countries' economic nationalism. So it is imperative to design and pursue an ASEAN-centered, ASEAN-led supply chain framework. A practical starting point is to broaden ASEAN participation in existing fragmented GBC, such as Singapore, Malaysia, or Korea, Vietnam, or Japan, Thailand, and promote deeper intra-regional integration built on these production networks. Some pilot initiatives based on these existing GBCs should be explored. And I think the master plan on ASEAN connectivity impact will play a critical role in this process. Since this work requires coordination across multiple areas, including infrastructure, digital systems, institution technology, and production capacity, and people mobility too. A good example of this is the framework on ASEAN supply chain efficiency and resilience, developed under the Seamless Logistics Strategic Area of Impact 2025 and supported by the Australian government. These are the strategic priorities and priority actions set out in that framework. These strategic priorities cover custom digitalization, disaster response policies, diversification and sector development, as well as the creation of economic corridors across ASEAN. Because I'm not involved in this framework, I do not have information on its current progress or participating countries. However, given its importance and sustained implementation and broader participation from external partners, and widening the scope of the framework will be needed. To be successful, ASEAN needs ASEAN-led supply chain governance, not FDI-led governance. There are important questions here. Which industry should ASEAN prioritize? What role should each member states play? And how can ASEAN reach consensus and coordinate a long-term roadmap for intra-regional GBCs? And importantly, addressing the development gaps among member states is important. ASEAN countries have very different abilities to participate in supply chains, and so bridging this gap will be critical. Also, there are other challenges. At this stage, high-tech sectors such as electronics and automotive will inevitably remain driven by external countries. And ultimately, it is firms, not governments, that build supply chain. So the key policy challenge is how to design incentives that encourage firm participation. Then finally, what can Korea contribute? Korea also needs to diversify its trade and investment partners And as Korea and ASEAN member states increasingly participate together in regional value chain, so Korea will become an essential dialogue partner in future discussion on expanding ASEAN's production networks. Korea can support ASEAN-led initiative in various ways. For example, by contributing to capacity building for supply chain participation, advancing digital custom systems, upgrading SMEs, and implementing pilot projects that extend existing GBC structures within the region. Korea's experience in FTA utilization, manufacturing upgrading, and logistic digitalization can provide direct and practical support for ASEAN supply chain initiatives. Yeah, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. La, for that. I think it's good that you highlighted, actually provided us with a context of what were the implications and where did it start actually with Trump tariffs. So, and what are the implications that ASEAN member states are facing right now with regard to that. So in a way, these have actually reshaped the landscape that we have in ASEAN when it comes to supply chains. And I think your observation about the ASEAN plus FTAs is really same observation that we have been having despite ASEAN's having a zero tariff for most, or 98 or 99% of the trade under the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement. The utilization is quite low, around 25% for the past several years. So there has been a lot of discussions as well in ASEAN that it is how somehow we need to look at other areas or other initiatives in ASEAN, like addressing non-tariff measures, for example, even looking at the rules of origin, where that could also impact in ensuring increasing utilization in ASEAN. So we will go back to some of those issues that you have highlighted, and perhaps let me now invite our colleague, Dr. Atit Tippichai. Please, you may wish to use the podium, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Atit Tippichai from King Mongkut Institute of Technology, Ladkrabang in Thailand. It's my great honor to speak with you on the theme, the physical engine accelerating ASEAN trade connectivity for a sustainable future. The presentation is based on the SIPA project, Southeast Asia Freight Transport Infrastructure and Policy Report, which I serve as the regional consultant for almost 2 years. So I am here to share the key insight from this work. I hope they will contribute to our discussion on strengthening ASEAN connectivity in the coming decade. ASEAN is entering a new phase of the launch of Connectivity Strategic Plan 2026 to 2035, which set a clearer, more ambitious direction for the region integration effort. In this context, freight transport truly serves as the physical engine of regional integration. It is what enables goods, value, and economic activity is moved across our border efficiently. We are seeing rising trade volume, rapid growth in e-commerce, and significant supply chain shift driven by global uncertainty and the new production strategy. All these trends increase the pressure on ASEAN transport and logistics systems. Connectivity is now essential. It's not only for the competitiveness, but also for resilience and long-term sustainability. To meet the goal of the new strategic plan, ASEAN will need to upgrade and modernize its freight system across infrastructure, regulation, digitalization, and environment performance. This is the key message I would like to introduce in today's presentation. Fair connectivity is critical because it directly shapes ASEAN economic performance. As shown here, maritime transport continue to dominate international trade in our region, accounting for 61% of total trade value. At the same time, domestic freight movement rely very much on road transport. In the Philippines and Indonesia, as much as 90% of domestic freight moved by truck. Logistics already contribute more than 5% of ASEAN GDP, and rapid growth of e-commerce is driving an even stronger surge in last mile delivery demand. We also seeing major supply chain shift driven by ASEP, nearshoring, and the reconfiguration of global production networks. This change makes seamless, reliable freight corridor more crucial than ever. However, efficiency gap in our current system continue to drive higher logistic costs, lower cargo flow, and reduce competitiveness. Strengthening freight connectivity is therefore essential for ASEAN to remain competitive and resilient in the year ahead. Despite progress, ASEAN still faces several structural bottlenecks. First, based on the SIPA report, we highlighted infrastructure quality is uneven. We have the world-class Tier 1 ports, but also we have the Tier 3 ports that's struggling with congestion and technical limitation. Our rail system remains largely disconnected, limiting multimodal options. Second, we remain highly dependent on trucks. This over-reliance contributes to congestion, high logistic costs, and rising emissions, especially in urban area and border area. Third, border friction remain a challenge. Custom processes, vehicle standard, and operating requirements remain unharmonized. The ASEAN single window is progressing, but not yet fully digital and fully interoperable across all agencies. Fourth, our geography presents unique challenges. From archipelagic economy, like Indonesia and the Philippines, to long land border corridor in Mekong. Finally, climate pressures are increasing. Emissions continue to rise, and low carbon alternatives remain limited in scale. Overall, the central challenge is fragmentation, not the absence of the access, but the lack of integration across them. Despite the bottleneck, ASEAN is also seeing very strong momentum in regional connectivity development. The three main ASEAN freight corridors, East-West, North-South, Southern Economic Corridor, under GMS framework, are increasing, becoming the backbone of cross-border freight movement. This corridor are attracting investment and helping to structure logistic flow across the region. We also see several strategic projects that have potential to reshape the freight connectivity. Lao China Railway, that mentioned already by my ambassador of Thailand, and also the Thailand China high-speed rail. So one complete will form a critical part of the central spine of Singapore Kunming rail link. Indonesia Sea toll road continue to reduce regional disparity by improving maritime connectivity with the Eastern Islands. And the ASEAN Smart Logistics Network is helping modernize logistics through digital platform and integrated freight hub. So investment momentum across the region is clearly accelerating, but at the slide note, integration is still lagging behind. That is the crucial challenge moving forward. To bridge the device, we need a coordinated approach built around 4 key areas. First, multimodal integration, ports, rail, ICD, and logistics zone must be connected seamlessly. We also need a consistent corridor standards and stronger use of inland waterway and coastal shipping wherever the geography allows. Second, regulatory and procedural harmonization. ASEAN must accelerate the implementation of its regional transport facilitation agreements so that the vehicles, driver, and goods can move more easy across borders. At the same time, the ASEAN single window needs to advance toward full end-to-end digital processing across all border agencies. Third, smart and digital logistics. Smart port, electronic data interchange, real-time cargo tracking, and digital embed freight corridors are significantly reduced clearance time and improve predictability. As digitalization expands, cybersecurity readiness also becomes essential. Fourth, the green freight transition. ASEAN needs to ship more cargo to rail and waterway while advancing clean trucking fees, cleaner port operation, and wider adoption of low carbon fuels. Together, these 4 enablers will help transform ASEAN freight system into one that is more integrated, more modal, and more sustainable. This is also a timely opportunity to deepen ASEAN-Korean cooperation in freight connectivity. Korea has strong expertise in areas that ASEAN needs: digital logistics system, intelligent transport technologies, and advanced port automation. Technology partnership in this area can help accelerate ASEAN transition towards smarter, more resilient, and also more efficient. There are also important opportunities for co-investment in strategic corridor nodes, such as ICD, logistic park, special economic zone, and port modernization project that support regional supply chains. And importantly, capacity building remains a cornerstone. Joint training, professional exchange, and technical cooperation can strengthen regulatory excellence, upgrade logistic workforce skills, and support green freight transition. Therefore, this form of cooperation can play a meaningful role in helping ASEAN implement the connectivity strategy plan more effectively. Let me conclude with 3 key messages. First, ASEAN face connectivity needs to move beyond fragmented national system and become a truly integrated multimodal ecosystem, one that allows goods to move seamlessly across borders and nodes. Second, upgrading freight transport is essential for strengthening supply chain resilience, enabling the digital green transition, and supporting more balanced development across the region. The third, deeper ASEAN-Korean collaboration through technology, investment, and capacity building can help unlock the transformation and ensure that faith truly become the physical engine of connected, sustainable, and resilient ASEAN. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Atit Tippichai. Actually, it's really good that you highlighted also the positive tone, aside from the fact that we have a lot of challenges that we have when it comes to this, the freight goods and transport. So it's somehow a way of putting a good spin to what ASEAN should be doing. And I also like the way the ASEAN-Korea cooperation has been highlighted, similar to what the previous speakers have done with regard to having smart ports, joint capacity building, because that would help us in terms of trying to identify how do we move forward from all these challenges. So with that, let me invite our fourth speaker, Dr. Songheang, please.
안녕하세요. The previous session, many speakers talk a lot about my name, AI. Make me very important. That reason why I'm here with you all. Thank you so much. Just my name, not me, AI.
The actual AI.
Yeah. So, a very important session that we focus on people-to-people connectivity. One of the core elements of ASEAN Connectivity Strategy Plan that has been launched in Malaysia. And thank you so much for such great invitation from ASEAN Korea Center for such symposium. It is my great honor to present the 4 points for your consideration and discussion. The first one is labor and talent mobility, intra-ASEAN mobility, Korea and ASEAN connectivity, what we have done, what challenges, what policy direction. Yes, the last one is policy direction or implementation. Let me move to number 1. We see labor and talent mobility. Everyone talk about migration, talk about migrant worker, linked with TVET, with skill development of youth, of people, aging, green economy, care economy. Labor mobility is willingness of worker to change job or change employers. But talent mobility focus on international movement of employee to different role, function, geographical location, even though within all the same organization of their country. If we see all these migration or the key part of that to optimize employee skill, enhance career progression, to meet the need of the company, of the organization. If we see the statistic, the number over 167 million international migration, international migrant workers in the world. Among them, over maybe nearly 14 million from ASEAN and the Pacific. You see, international migration driven by weight differential. Why people move? Because of weight differential, because our resources differences. If we see another perspective of global talent management strategy, many people focus on the cooperation between industry and academia as kind of the head-hunter program to hand from the industry, from the academia, from the university to select or recruit the top talent people for their company. And let me move to this one. You see, the people grow. People cannot work with you so long period of time because of what? Digital innovation, preferences, their favorite. The people can grow vertically as a promotion, ranking, can move and can be upgraded in terms of education, master, PhD, and other things. And last one, skill level. How can we upgrade three of them? Promotion as a ranking, education upgrade, and skill level. For example, Korean national competency standard, level 1, level 2, until level 8. How can we move them and help them grow as part of career progression? Number two, your employee or staff can move horizontally. How can they move? How can they grow horizontally? It means that we can rotate them as kind of job rotation to different roles, different functions as well. Number three is cross-functional movement or growth. Cross-functional movement or growth, we can see the talent fluidity. Talent fluidity, like the ability of organization to seamlessly move talent across team function according to changing business priority. Once their job complete, the redeployed employee go back to their usual duty. It's very important to change back and forth, or we create ad hoc team or working group to meet the priority of the business sector. Number four, virtually. Let them move and grow virtually, like working remotely as a gig economic worker. Allow them to move easily across geographic and occupational boundary. Another thing for the talent, we see the inflow of highly skilled individuals can encourage or as the key driver for innovation and entrepreneurship. Innovation-driven economy, create and apply knowledge. Innovation, R&D, entrepreneurship. What country focus on this? Such kind of US, Korea, Singapore, Germany, Japan, etc. All these countries focus on this, create and apply their knowledge. Labor and talent mobility, that we see the push and pull factor. I think ladies and gentlemen know well the push and pull factor. For example, the push factor like unemployment wage, unemployment rate, wage stagnation, political instability, for example, or pull factor like higher standard of living, career-related opportunity, and other things. And another perspective like the fear competition, interconnected in the global world in order to find out the highly talented people to meet the business priority. And last one, the way for employee to move as kind of labor mobility and worker to take new responsibility as kind of the talent mobility. This perspective involves the human capital. It means that increasing employee market value. If we see the emerging market in ASEAN, like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, if we see another perspective of mature market, like Singapore, the vast disparity in average salary create opportunity for regional and global talent migration. Another thing that the core human element are empowerment, our worker, our employee, even though they work fixed in one location or remotely. If we see another perspective between 2018 and 2020, industrial robot adopted, created 2 million jobs for skilled formal workers, particularly digital jobs. According to World Economic Forum 2025, digital skills like big data specialist, fintech engineer, AI, my name, and machine learning specialists are the hottest topic and job in the world. If we see the cooperation between industry and university, before pharmaceutical job is the best, the hottest, that investment from the industry. But now it moved to IT, AI, machine learning, and other things. Let's move to number 2. Number 2 is kind of the perspective of interaction between ASEAN and ASEAN, intra-ASEAN mobility for labor and talent that our co-speaker talked a lot about this. For example, labor mobility hub, Singapore is the most popular destination for ASEAN worker, Malaysia, Thailand. Yeah. And all these migration push ASEAN economic growth rate in 2025, 5% to 5%. If we see the share of intra-ASEAN trade stagnate for a few decades in 2023, as raised by Dr. Lia. Dr. La raised about stagnation of trade between ASEAN and ASEAN. Only 22% intra-ASEAN in 2023. Yes, not growing so much. The reason why I need ASEAN people, ASEAN government, to move further ASEAN to other stakeholder or dialogue partner for that. And for ASEAN digital economy in 2030, costing 1 to 2 trillion, and 30% of GDP is very important. The globalization has led to an increased demand of highly skilled workers. Many workers engage in multiple professions. We cannot stick them in one location or one job simultaneously. And if we see the migrant worker outflow in ASEAN, Philippines rank first. Outflow, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and other countries. You see the statistic, it is a kind of the number of international migration in ASEAN, and each of the ASEAN countries, I cannot count the statistic or the number. You see the international migration fill job that native workers are unwilling or unavailable to take. Low skill for physically demanding sector, boosting labor productivity. All these things, that statistics. According to the survey in 2024, if we ask the ASEAN people, what country they want to move? If they have opportunity to move within ASEAN, the first one is Singapore, 28%, the top one. Second one is Thailand, Brunei, followed by Vietnam, 9.7%. Let me move to another one. If we see, it is kind of the brain drain phenomenon. It is good practice for your consideration. Philippines implemented sophisticated labor exporting model in response to the escalating unemployment, economic instability. It was instituted in the 1970s in response to unemployment. So now the system, the model successfully implemented. For example, in 2025, Philippines plan to move from lower to upper middle income country because of the benefit of the sending a remittance a lot annually to the Filipino government. At least 7,000 Filipinos move in and out as part of the sophisticated labor exporting model in order to kind of brain drain and come back, settle down to the country, bringing the skill, experience abroad for their country development too. And for the economic growth rate, 6.5% in 2024, and planned to 8% in 2028. The model is one of the key factors for economic growth. If we see the collaboration, how about collaboration between ASEAN and Korea? Korea and ASEAN connectivity, this kind of the 4 or 7 items for the collaboration between ASEAN and Korea. You see, the ASEAN and Korea focus on many other things. That the most important thing is the future industry, 5G, IoT, AI, startup, and other things that we can push up and work interconnectedly. And because ASEAN has the third largest labor force after China and India, why we move and work together between ASEAN and China too. Another perspective that we see the collaboration framework between Korea and ASEAN. We see all these collaborations strengthening ASEAN connectivity. But the problem is ASEAN-Korea driven by Korea demographic need and ASEAN labor supply. The ASEAN is you remember the third labor force provision after China and India. Yeah. And you see the ASEAN, young people 34%, aging, decreasing fertility rate of Korea. The reason why we can complement and work together. For example, Korean implemented EPS system, employment permit system that established in 2004 to address labor shortages in SME, manufacturing, agriculture, construction, through MOU signed between government of ASEAN and South Korea too. Let me move to another one, that collaboration like on education, KIEP, KGSP scholarship program. That me as a KIEP recipient from the Korean government too. Yeah, on labor, as I mentioned, EPS system, volunteer program like KIEP World Friend, Neighbor, Happy Move, Global Volunteer, culture. We have here the Korean ASEAN Center, ASEAN Culture House in Busan, K-pop and other things that can benchmark each other from Korea and ASEAN. If we see the trading is very important. Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand, are the critical manufacturing hub for ASEAN, for Korea conglomerate for them. Vietnam, for example, Vietnam and Korea trading, they plan to reach 150 billion US dollar by 2030. So the topmost destination for Korean investor investing in Vietnam. Yes. For tourism, ASEAN is the first destination for Korean traveler. The first one, the top destination country is Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. For diplomatic and politics, we have collaboration or declaration to strengthen each other. Well, technology have transformed the way of work, demanding new skill set from workers. And ODA project as CLMV, Indonesia, and other KIEP project, there's a lot of activity and project that have done. We see Korea to ASEAN, only 8 million. ASEAN to Korea, 2 million, imbalance for that. So we benchmark, and we have a lot of benefit from Korea to ASEAN. Yeah, Korea, you see, the ASEAN 5th largest trading partner, and you see the number of migrant workers in Korea too. Let me move to number 3, and quickly at the time, sorry for that. Yes, kind of this one, season worker program in 2015 in Korea, and global talent to maintain dual citizenship. I think it's very important. Yeah, very important one. That encourage the global talent to work in Korea. Let them to have dual citizenship in Korea. That Korean visa have the visa waiver program for over 190 countries. They can hold Korean visa. Very good, effective one. Another thing, if we see the survey, as the migrant workers, 62% reported that gaining more social benefit from working in other country. 67% had developed their skill. It means that after working some period of time and go back home, they can bring a skill for their country development. And this one, we see the global talent competitiveness index. It's kind of the high level, high number that Korea is the top destination for global talent to work in Korea. Yes, I think that the visa or dual citizenship programs are one of the attractive programs for global talent. For policy implication or direction, I think this is a very important part. Labor and talent mobility create structural imbalance in human capital development, even though we make it a policy direction, investing in quality education, skill development, lifelong learning system. If we see some low-income country, they invest less on education, less than 3% of GDP on education. But if we see the high-income country invest at least 4 to 5% of GDP on education. We focus on micro-credential, targeted training voucher, in order to strengthen the quality of education. Number 2, mobilize talent through inclusive adaptive skill strategy for changing demography reality. It's the reason why ASEAN and Korea can work in order to fill out the aging population for workforce development. Cross-border talent partnership. Another one, harnessing digital technology, supporting access to digital infrastructure and improving access to digital skill training. Last one, strengthening skill intelligence for future skill. If we see our youth and students, mostly they focus on higher education. How about TVET? TVET is some country as the second option, as the third option, as the fourth option. How we can find out, how we can help them to be employed if they go to higher education, bachelor, master, PhD, crowded over there. How about the semi-skilled worker? That reason why we try to enable them, help them for that. And especially, most of them, modern students focus on management, law, economic, marketing. How about TVET skill to meet the manufacturing, agricultural need? That's a problem. Another thing for over and under-educated worker. Sometimes you hold master, PhD degree, but you teach at kindergarten, you teach at primary school, for example, like that. So your degree and your job, your level of position, not matching. According to the survey, half of those workers hold job corresponding to their level of education. Other half are either over or undereducated for their job. The reason why wasted in education that we invest much from the beginning of year 1 until higher education or TVET level. Yeah. Another thing that if we see the global perspective, only 13.6% of youth completed TVET. The reason why left of them, it need them proactive and data-driven approach to close skill gap and mismatch for that. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Because of time, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good for highlighting the overseas Filipino workers. Yeah, we actually, in the Philippines, we have established a Department of Migrant Workers just to look into and protect migrant workers who are going overseas. I have 16 minutes and 55 seconds. So let me try quickly. Go to Safwan. I have here some questions from the floor. So, do all ASEAN member states have specific goals or work plans to implement and further examine what connectivity entails, especially now that it has been elevated as a new pillar under the ASEAN 2045? And additionally, with the accession of Timor-Leste, how does this tie in with ASEC's plans, or probably ASEAN's plan on connectivity?
Thank you, Buds, for the question from the floor. I think we are currently at the stage where things are still quite fluid. We have adopted the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan, But at the same time, a lot of work is still ongoing to prepare to implement the strategic plan itself. So where we are now is we are currently developing the work plan to implement the ACSP. We are identifying for each strategic measure what are the possible activities that we can do and what are the possible projects that we can do from those activities. So we need to see, what we can actually work on, who's going to, where we will get the funding, where we'll mobilize the resources for these activities, etc. As far as specific member states are concerned, including Timor-Leste, this is the opportunity for them to actually insert their priorities into the work plan of the ACSP. So it's not so much that each country has to identify what each of them will do, but this is the opportunity for them to discuss with other ASEAN member states, for the sectoral bodies to push forward what are their priorities for connectivity to implement the strategic plan and to put it into the work plan so that together we can look at what possible projects that we can do, what kind of funding we can get, what we can achieve out of the ACSP. And from there, if any member states do still want to do something specific to themselves, then we can see it how we can further engage them to support them on a national level. Of course, our priority under the ACSP will mainly be the regional aspects, and this is where the ACSP is a little bit unique. We have that area, with the smart and sustainable urban development, for instance, where we do actually look beyond the national, beyond the regional, into the local government, into the cities themselves, and see where we can provide more targeted, more specific assistance for each ASEAN member states. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have a follow-up, but I'll proceed later to, let me go to, when it comes to Dr. La, I would like to, there's another question here from the floor. Given the evidence that ATIGA, the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, has limited trade-creating effects, what priority policy areas should ASEAN address beyond tariffs and FTAs to strengthen supply chain resilience?
Okay, thank you. Actually, trade liberalization could provide an important foundation, but it has not translated into stronger production linkages among ASEAN. Because I think the main bottlenecks today lie beyond tariffs. So then we can ask what the priority policy area should be addressed. From my personal perspective, I think the framework I mentioned earlier offers clear and well-organized set of priorities, policy areas, custom digitalization, disaster response policy, and diversification, sector development, and economic corridors. I think these are critical elements for strengthening ASEAN supply chains. And in addition to these priority sectors, I believe enhancing people mobility should be considered a key policy area too. Because in high-tech industries, the availability of skilled workers is essential. Without sufficient supply of skilled labor, ASEAN will struggle to build or upgrade supply chains in sectors such as electronics, automotive, and digital industries. So, improving labor mobility, ideally linked to human capital development within ASEAN, should be considered as a core element for supply chain resilience and upgrading. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer. Let me go to Dr. Atit. Here's a question from the floor. Digital freight corridors, smart ports, and real-time data sharing are becoming increasingly important. What digital logistics investments should ASEAN prioritize? And how can member states work together to ensure interoperability and cybersecurity readiness across the region?
Thank you very much for your the question from the crowd. It's really important question because to make the freight transport is more sustainable, we need to shift forward the freight to the railway system or even the waterway, which consume the energy, less energy. So it means that the more efficient way. And how to do this is really important because there are two types of measures. The first one, the infrastructure, that we need to invest the money to the system, particularly for the railway, for the ICD, and also for the economic zone. So we need to invest the infrastructure is very important. And the second thing, how to move the good or vehicle freely. We need to have the collaboration between the country, and also we need the support from the developed country who have the technology, particularly for the digitalization of the freight transport. Because if we can track the data of the good along the routes, and also when we cross the border, if we can use the same data that one country use and authorized by another country as well, is more, we could reduce the time of transport. So we need to have some kind of the workforce to work on the digitalization, and we need the support from the developed country to make it possible. Yep. Yeah, we need the budget as well. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think data has also been mentioned in the first session, and this is an important element when you look at connectivity. So I have a question for Dr. AI. And I think in your presentation, you look at the complementarity between ASEAN and Korea. So the young population of ASEAN, the aging population of Korea, I think is also similar to what we have with Japan. So while Korea faces a rapid aging and talent shortages, in your view, which areas of ASEAN-Korea cooperation offer the greatest potential to address these complementary demographic trends, particularly in education, public health, and future industries?
Thank you for such an important question. As we have done subsequently, the cooperation between ASEAN and Korea, for example, as a EPS system, moving even though unskilled, highly skilled or talented skill move from ASEAN to Korea to work together. As kind of the benchmarking and filling out for that. In terms of AI, as I mentioned, the aging population of Korea increasing. So should move specifically into automation in order to substitute the aging employee in Korea. And we send existing cooperation for EPS, not only for that, for education, that Korean provide many ODA project, scholarship and other things to Korea already, that we can send and expand more and more, especially to Tibet skill, as I told you. Korean have the labor shortage for unskilled labor, like the agriculture, manufacturing, or construction, that need more and more workers from ASEAN to work and support each other. ASEAN worker also get the benefit as the wage or something like that, and especially learning the skill from Korean. And another thing, we can prepare the we call employee returning program in order for them to help them to resettle down after working in Korea, matching the sector that have like complement each other. For example, we talk about AI. In Korea, it's okay. But AI in other country, how we can benchmark and bring the AI skill to some more ASEAN countries that have not high tech like Korea. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. I have 5 minutes and 40. I will ask for 5 minutes. There's a question. Given the diverse development levels among ASEAN member states, what practical steps can help ensure that progress in connectivity remains inclusive and all that members are able to participate meaningfully in regional integration efforts? Please, Safwan, you want to take a...
I'll give it a go. I think it all comes down to the process as well. When ASEAN develops a project, it has to be looked at by all ASEAN member states. So all ASEAN member states have a chance to participate and to provide their inputs to the design of the project to make sure that they are actually capable of meeting the requirements of the project. And also, if there are anything that they need, they can build that into any of the projects or any of the programs, that they would need to fully maximize the utility that they can get from the project itself. So that's basically the system that we have in a nutshell. And I think, I don't know if any of my other colleagues want to add on to this, but yeah, and also, we have a lot of similar mechanisms in this. And we also have in ASEAN, we have what we call the IAI, although it's not necessarily specifically related to connectivity. It's the Initiative for ASEAN Integration. Yep. So under this initiative, previously it focused on the CLMV, but also now on Timor-Leste, which gives targeted capacity building, targeted technical assistance to those countries, specifically not just, maybe not specifically on connectivity, but in a lot of economic related areas in particular. So that's generally what we have in ASEAN.
Thank you very much for that. I think inclusivity or inclusion is somehow should be embedded in whatever we do in terms of connectivity. Anyone who wants to take a stab on that one, on the question, but otherwise I have a very quick, because I only have 3 minutes and 17 seconds. I have a very quick questions for the rest. If you could change one policy or regulation tomorrow to improve ASEAN connectivity, what would it be? Quickly, 1 minute. Anyone? Yeah, please.
Okay, as I mentioned that
Just one?
yeah, sure. Infrastructure is very, very important, and also the differentiate between the country, the gap between the country is very much. So we need to invest the infrastructure in all the country to have the same standard. So we need the fund. So if I could change the world, or I would like to have all countries to put in the law that all countries need to develop the infrastructure for connectivity in the ASEAN, maybe certain percent, and also get the support from the fund of the regional fund, like 50-50. If you put the money 50, you can get the fund 50, something like that. So we can decide for the policy later. Yes.
Thank you. Quickly.
For me, I focus on employee, focus on worker. In order to move productively, worker have to be competent. The first one, worker have to be possess digital skill, engaging with increasing digitalized workplace, interacting with digital device, app or platform and other things. The second one, worker have to possess social and emotional skill. It's competitive advantage over AI and machine that cannot do like people. The third one, advanced technical skill, enable individual to create and work with new technology for that. Thank you.
Thank you. At least he's talking about workers, and then he just diverse it. Okay, good. Dr. La, you want to, no, you're good? Okay, so with Safwan, you want to,
I think,
which one?
Just a quick one. One only.
Just one.
I promise. I think for ASEAN, we need to be able to utilize more of the ASEAN minus X mechanism.
Okay. Yep.
Especially in ASEAN, we have a lot of economic corridors. We have some activities may be of a high priority to certain ASEAN member states, but not to others. So while the principle of consensus is very important to ASEAN and how we operate, ASEAN needs to also be able to utilize this ASEAN minus X mechanism to really push forward. That's how we can advance things. You take more pilot project, you become more comfortable, and then you bring in everyone else. Thank you.
So basically, those who are ready, let's go ahead. And those which are not yet ready, we will help you bring in. I will help you bring into the fold. So anyway, with that, let me thank my panel for the wonderful and great discussion. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up the discussion session for session 2. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to our esteemed moderator and the panelists for their insightful and engaging discussions. Thank you very much. I would like to invite everyone back to their seats. And ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short coffee break. Refreshments and beverages are available out in the lobby, so please feel free to enjoy them. And we hope you have a pleasant break and look forward to welcoming you back for the next session at 3:10. Thank you very much. Kindly remember to share your thoughts by completing our feedback survey as well. Enjoy your break. Thank you very much.